What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Throw Show. Whoa. What's up, Sam?
What's up? How we doing?
You had a big weekend this weekend.
Correct.
How do you feel about that? Tell everybody what happened.
I had a okay series, and on my last attempt, I just went and did my thing. And I dropped 59.65 PR. First time over 59 in actual comp.
You had an Iceland round, but
yeah, I had a money round a few weeks ago where I hit 59 some change, but now I did it on round 6, so it's good.
Yeah, that was good. So you're about 1.35 meters off from qualifying for the Olympic trials.
Just about, yeah.
So let's segue into what was there any wind when we threw at Schuylkill Valley at your PR meet here?
A little bit.
Maybe like a couple miles an hour.
Yeah, I wouldn't say anything crazy, but definitely a little bit.
So I wanted to bring up some of the discussion around wind and then go into some of these other throwers. And then also, I think we're fortunate enough that we sort of have a direct analysis of what you guys did at home without wind and with cold weather, what you guys did in Ramona with wind, and then what we did, sort of afterwards. And actually, Jaime has a really, really pretty clear example of what can happen. And I think I wanted to go into some of that stuff and discuss the wind, and then maybe we'll go over some of these videos quick, and then I want to give my opinion
that's
on
fine.
wind.
Give your 2 cents.
Yeah. So let's start off with Alekna. I guess this is 3 weeks before. I think there was a little bit of wind at this throw here, but he still went 71.39. I think this is a meet last year. He went 71 even.
Yeah, this was the meet.
And so 71.39. There's a video of this from the stands, and you could see like the American flag waving a little. So maybe a little bit of wind here. Now we'll see what he ended up doing. We obviously know what he ended up doing. Another example here would be Ralford Mullings going 69.67. I don't remember what his PB was before this, but that was a huge, huge throw. Nick Percy, another guy that PR'd 67 meters, and I think his best prior to that was like 64. So just giving a couple examples here. Here's Van Dalen. She went out and threw 66.31, which is the Olympic standard, which is freaking awesome. Ripping a bomb, qualifying for Paris. As far as I can tell, qualifying for Euros as well. I think, as we get into some of these throws then in Ramona, some of the stuff that I wanted to bring up with Jaime was Jaime's season opener was probably like 38 to 42 degrees.
It was cold.
A little bit of like flurries like here and there. Nothing was sticking, but like little rain, little flurries. 61 meters. What did you throw that day? 50.
I threw like 51.
You threw 51, and Goodney threw 56. Goodney threw 56, and Legend threw 56.
Yeah.
So that was probably the week of Alekna's 71-meter throw, right?
Somewhere around that time.
Okay, so then, Jaime had said to me, like, it didn't bother her because she wasn't in the best groove. Like, she wasn't feeling good, but she wasn't unhappy with it. She was sort of like, whatever. Yeah. And we were going to Ramona, and we had seen her in training throwing. I would say probably, Goodney had said he had thought she was throwing over 70 a couple of days. Whether that was accurate, I don't know, but like far.
Yes.
We knew she was throwing far.
Yes.
We knew you were not in 51-meter shape.
No.
We knew Goodney probably should not be throwing 56 meters.
No, not at all.
And same with Legend. So it was an interesting meet for us to then travel to Ramona.
Yeah.
And that's where I want to get into some of these. Do you have anything that I'm missing there that you think?
Nah, from that first meet, like you said, the conditions weren't right, and we all kind of just underperformed. But it was something where it's just like we just wanted to get, the rust off. It was our first competition, just like kind of just geared towards, all right, we know that we're gonna do something better in Ramona.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, okay, so here we'll look at Veronica Figueiredo comes in. And actually, I want to also pause this here. Is that, like, it's not easy throwing in this wind.
No, not
like,
at all.
A lot of, I mean, one, you can just ask the javelin throwers who threw in this wind, but also, like, discus throwers, like, a lot of guys went there and didn't throw well.
I was one of them.
Yeah, you did not PR there.
I did not PR.
Legend didn't PR. Goodney didn't PR. Like, so I did want to point that out there. Now, Veronica comes in. I want to say her best might have been 63, 64 at this time. She'd thrown that, I think, in Tucson, if I remember. Maybe it was high 62. I always thought she has, like, nice technique.
Yeah, she's very balanced, super smooth.
She ends up throwing 67 meters, like cranked one.
Yeah.
So this is Jaime's throw. Marked as 73.09. She had thrown 72. So by this point, like, she had, I want to say, the previous day's training on Thursday, Friday, maybe it was just Thursdays. She had been throwing, like, very clearly, like, 70 plus. Like, it was, one of the guys is like, dude, I think that might have been like 74. She was just absolutely hammering it. And she had even said to me, like, you have to know how to throw in this. Like, you can't just go in and throw.
Yeah. No.
You've got to know how to hit it, especially with the women's disc. And she had lifted on Thursday, so this meet was on Saturday. She had done, like, a really good lift, which we will eventually post that on Throws U. So you'll get to see, like, her last training session. Mm-hmm. And her throws here, she opened at, like, 71, 72, 73. And then I think she might have had two other throws over 70. I think she had a high 69, if I remember. And I think the interesting part here is, like, we had all said – Jaime's strong enough so she knows how to still be balanced in the circle and hit the right angle so it doesn't flip early, especially with the women's disc. Mm-hmm. The interesting thing that I wanted to bring up was Jaime went 61 meters as a season opener, which, again, cold, terrible conditions, tailwind. There was a tailwind that day, which we hadn't mentioned earlier. Horrible conditions. We knew she was in 70-meter shape. We go to a wind meet where there's warmth. She throws 73 meters. Mm-hmm. Then she literally 2 days later gets her visa for China, flies around the world, 18 hours, misses 2 nights of sleep, and then goes and throws 69 meters in a stadium. So it's like, it's an interesting scenario and then she's come back, she's back in training here, and we've thrown 67 meters over at that same location. So it's almost like, in my opinion, you can see, like, 67 is probably her state of trained conditions. Mm-hmm. 69 to 70 meters is probably her state of, like, pretty good conditions in, like, a pretty big meet, and then perfect conditions 73.
Yeah.
And I think that where I want to take that route a little later, but also go through and check these other guys out. And you look at Dalen here,
who just switched over to the reverse as well. Mm-hmm. Super long, super smooth. He hit it. He knew it. He was popping off.
Yeah. And I think the thing too is, like, using someone like Dalen. Dude got second at USA's. Like, he threw 62 high in Eugene. Like, I don't know. He's if you would have told me him switching to reverse, like, I would have thought he could throw 65 to 66.
Without a doubt. He threw 62 off a non.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
and he hit it in a big meet.
Yeah.
So okay, so here's Connor Bell. So Connor had just broken the New Zealand record, if I remember correctly, in Los Angeles prior to this, and then came out here. Now, I also want to point out Connor on Friday, if I remember correctly, timeline-wise, he said something like, "This is like a video game. I just want to keep throwing." He was throwing like very clearly at 70 meters. Like at least I felt he was. Connor, you can comment down below if you would agree with that. Okay, so he comes in. Did he beat Alex here?
I don't remember. I know we have Alex's toss up here.
I've always liked his technique. I feel like he actually does a little bit of a fall in.
A little bit, but I think he makes up for it with his high point
Mm-hmm.
and allows him to catch deep and just...
Dude, so that's like exactly what we were talking about with Christoph.
Yeah.
Let's go back and watch this. I know we can't. Yeah, you're right.
See what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah. He might catch it like up in this area here, but still. Okay, so Connor goes out 68-10, right? I don't remember what Alex threw here, 68 something. This was his season best, but he had felt like he thought he should have thrown 70 here again. He just was sort of missing positions a little. His knee was a little banged up. By this point he knew he had a torn meniscus and patellar tendon.
Yeah.
Oh, no. He knew his knee was banged up. He didn't know the extent of it yet. Now, this is Mika Sosna, which, dude, by the way, Germany now, it's like they've got 3 guys back over 66. I think it's Henrik. Is it Henrik Johnson or Janssen? This throw.
Mika's 20, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's super young. And he went 68. It was 68 high, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is like absolutely incredible. That second flight, because it was him, Connor, and there's a few other guys in that flight,
They were popping.
and they were popping off. Like the energy was high. Like it was.
Also, I think we need to give Sosna some credit here. If I remember correctly, he is the junior world record holder in the discus. So, like,
Yes.
that's another people are like, oh, this guy comes out of nowhere, throws 8 or whatever.
This
dude
like that.
Threw like, wasn't it like 71, 72 meters? It's
Yeah.
far. Like,
Yeah.
he has the junior world record.
He's him.
Yeah. Like, I've always felt he's stable with his left side out of the back. Like, if you watch his left arm, left side.
Yeah, he keeps it up. He keeps it balanced.
Yeah. It's sort of wild to think, like, after Che, him and Connor Bell, like, dude, there's a lot of young kids coming up. Take Alekna. I don't even think about Alekna as, like, Alekna's like the player, but everybody else is the pawn underneath him. Sorry, that sounds bad, but, like, honestly, I don't know how else to put it. Okay, so Roja comes in. So he went 69. Ralford went 69. Who's Jamaica taking to the Olympics is my big question now.
That's a good question.
With Schmeichel, Dakers, and I will say, I've always thought Stona's got really nice fluid movement, especially he's a bigger dude too, height-wise.
Yeah.
His upper body's got a lot thicker too.
Just nice and smooth.
Yep.
And you can see, like, he catches it deep and just lets it rip. I believe this toss was early on within his series.
Yeah, I think that was his first or second throw. I actually want to ask him if I'm pretty sure he has flat feet, and that's another question that I asked Alekna. I was like, in the middle of the comp, I was like, Mikolos, do you have flat feet? He's like, I don't really have an arch, so yes. I wanted to just point that out. Now, this is obviously the world record, and where we're going to go with this is essentially analyze these throws. Yes, recognize what happens with wind. Understand, what that does, but then I have some points I want to just like bring up as like wind aided throws and sort of discuss, is it bad or is that good? Oh, I should show. So this is Christoph. This is actually Christoph was saying that basically and Christoph being the biomechanist, he said that one of the things here, maybe I shouldn't share this right now, but he sent me a chart of the phase specific center of mass velocities that Alekna displays and how well essentially he's able to take his rapid horizontal velocity and then control it and then displace it vertically into the discus.
Yeah.
Dude, it's sort of weird, like, just watching this throw, like, where he catches it.
Yeah, it's insane. Like, he catches it deeper.
Yo!
That was actually a good pause right there.
Yo!
But he catches it deeper than anyone that I've seen.
Yeah, and so this is the thing that the biomechanists were bringing up, is they're like, it's interesting because he jumps a little on his finish, so he doesn't appear to be in double support as long. But he catches it so deep because of how well he comes off of his left and how fast his left is, and then how patient his upper body is, that he actually holds that position in double support longer than anybody else.
Yeah.
So he might elevate off of his finish early, but he's there longer.
Yeah. He's accelerating on a longer path.
Yeah. Which also tells me, like, does that mean he could, like, he's what, 22? He's probably gonna throw 75 meters
Without a doubt.
Like, if he goes back to Ramona, he might throw 76, dude. I mean, we might be looking at somebody who's gonna throw really, like, he might actually beat the women's world record. This is a bad angle. I have another video of this, but there's Alex. Alex, what was interesting this weekend that he brought up is that when he threw this 71.48, and I did want to bring another thing up here with Alex. So he was like, we had a huge headwind, but he's been trying to fix some of the technical things around his error and the feedback we got from the biomechanist from his 68-meter throw. And he went there and he's like, dude, the wind was a direct headwind. It was not like the wind in Ramona. But because he had better technique and he was more stable, he was able to hit it better. Now, I think the interesting part here too is, like, I also just want to bring up with somebody like Alex is, I think it still comes back to the whole thing in the beginning that Jaime brought up, is like, if you're going to throw in the wind, you have to have good movement and you have to know how to fly the discus. You have to have good release. Like, you have to still hit positions. It doesn't just magically go far.
No.
And I think that that's like an important concept that we all have to remember.
Yeah. I think a lot of people were kind of just like, oh, like, of course they're getting these big throws. Like, they're throwing in the wind. It's like, yes, we're throwing in the wind, but, like, you absolutely have to hit it. And I'm a good example. I felt good going into that meet, and I did not hit it the way I should have. And I actually threw further on the day that had less wind than the day where we had wind. It's just like all these people were just complaining, and it's like, be realistic. Like, you have to know how to do that. It's a skill. And if you don't have that skill, you're not going to benefit from it.
Yeah, and I think that sort of takes me into some of the stuff that I want to touch on is, like, one, if we're thinking about if we think about the sport of throwing in general, right? Like, if we want to grow the sport, and the whole point of us coaching is that we get more kids to come in and we give them more opportunity. Throwing is our passion. We love throwing. We're obsessed with it. We eventually want to help more kids so that they throw more and there's more throwers and we all get better at throwing. So you see someone like Jackson Cantwell come up and he throws 75 feet as a sophomore and you're going, holy crap, that's amazing. And then maybe in 10 years as a kid who's a sophomore throwing 76 feet, and it just keeps getting better and better, and you have more Aleknas coming up. And I think that for that to happen, you need flashy stuff. Like, you need to throw far. Mm-hmm. And that's what makes it cool. It's like, guess what? You want to attract people, you throw discus really, really far.
Yep. Okay?
That's going to have attraction. Also, to Throws Town Ramona, to Don and to Caleb, you know, Don funds a lot of that. Caleb runs all of it. And it's like, you bring in money which they had.
Mm-hmm.
And then on top of that, you pay people out within a week, which is unheard of in the sport. You know, it's like that's also going to attract people. So now you have big, huge bombs. Then you have money. And then that's going to bring in attention from other realms, which leads us into Christoph.
Mm-hmm.
Christoph was a biomechanist. He brings his whole team down. He doesn't have to deal with anything. They all come down, and we have biomechanical analysis of the world record discus throw. We have biomechanical analysis of Jaime throwing 73 meters, of all these guys popping off. And we know what was happening. We know what their technique was. And what's even crazier is that, so if you look at big throws, you look at the money that these guys are earning and these women were earning, which they paid out for a sea-level meet. They people made good money there. Then you look at, now you're drawing more attention from these other realms. You look at the kinetic analysis that they're providing. Then that leads to betterment of the sport directly. Alex and I have been talking about the biomechanics, and that literally, I think, played a role in him throwing 71.48 after the fact, not in Tulsa. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's something that, like, I wanted to bring up. I had written down a couple of things, a couple of notes, and I think that, you know, you look at when Daniel Stahl first threw 70, I think it was 70 or 71. You look at Jürgen Schultz's world record. You look at Gerhard Cantor's world record. These guys all threw really far in wind. And for like the U.S., at some point we have to recognize, like, early season throws. Like, I traveled to Iceland 2 years ago to see if Daniel Stahl would break the world record. In Iceland, in Selfoss, the whole goal was that he would get really good wind. The wind was almost too much, so he didn't do it. So Americans act like the Europeans don't do this. The Europeans have been doing this for years. Early season throws are always, you know, Sollentuna, Halle is another meet where they always chase wind. And we think, we have this pretentious attitude of like, oh, the Europeans don't do it. Yes, they do. And they don't care because they still have to go and throw at the end of the year in a championship setting in a stadium. I guess my question here is, should I keep ranting on some of these comments, or what are your thoughts here, Sam?
I feel like bringing up what you have is good. You know, it's a good discussion. It's something that needs to happen and continue to evolve. Okay,
so here's another thing. Don and Caleb set this up to be a sea-level meet. So they're providing more opportunity for throwers, okay? They're providing more opportunity for throwers. And in the throwing world, let's bring up Alex right now. Alex is a 71.48. He has a 71.48 PR. He can't get into Diamond League meets. It's essentially gatekeeping. You can't come into our club. You can't come throw at the Diamond League, even though you're a two-time world finalist. Now, you take something like Oklahoma. It's a sea-level meet. They're paying throwers more than any other meet probably ever has. At least the pool of throwers. More throwers are making money. They paid for that sea-level meet. They're providing more opportunity. It was all throwing related, and more people could go have access to it. If more throwers can get there in a reasonably affordable fashion, then more throwers can grow from this and become better throwers, and it attracts more freaking people, right? Like that's a big thing that I have to like bring up. And I think the other thing is like just going through the timeline of the payout. I know for a fact that Jaime was paid out by Wednesday. Now, some other people were not paid out for like a week, but like a week, right? Like for Jaime to get paid out by Wednesday, and Don was like, dude, I want to make sure that she gets everything that she earned. She earned all this. Dude, that's absolutely freaking unheard of. You know, there's some throwers on site that are still waiting for like 8 to 9 months for a paycheck. So is that a bad thing that this meet that has wind? Oh, it's this horrible thing. It's trying to grow the sport. It's trying to get people more funding. It's trying to get more attention to, you know, from other areas. It's trying to really do a good job of providing more opportunity to more people. Mm-hmm. Why is that a negative? It's a negative because we bring up the wind and we say it's wind aided. The wild thing about this is that if you look at like the top guys above Alex on like the all-time performance list, and you look at it, it's like we still have an American record from Ben Plunkett that is after he tested positive and he threw 72 meters, even though the World Athletics doesn't acknowledge it. And we want to say wind is bad, but these guys that were on drugs were okay. No. And it's like, It doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make any logical sense in the argument. We know that some of these guys were using, and it's like, that was the times. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. But that doesn't mean it's okay for us to talk trash because there was wind at this meet, but then not bring up that these dudes were on gas. That's a whole nother discussion. I think the other thing is like going to the exclusivity of it is like you go to a Grand Prix, even a New York Grand Prix, the LA Grand Prix, you have to get invited to compete there. Those are B-level meets. Diamond Leagues, you have to get invited. Again, gatekeeping. A C-level meet, Tulsa, everybody's invited. You come and you ball out and you can score points. So there's a bigger opportunity for more freaking people. And on top of that, I know not all agents are going to like this, and I might be on the chopping block with some agents, but it's like the other factor is agents aren't really involved in this scenario. So now the athlete can get more earnings out of the event. I brought up too, where it's like world-class biomechanists were there, so we have research, we have data from other areas, we have other interests now coming into the sport. And then they say, oh, what happened? What were you studying there? They put these force plates in Jaime's shoes during Jaime's training session, like stuff that we would never have the opportunity to experience. But solely because it was done with Caleb and he's laid back. And he's like, yeah, let's do everything. Whatever, the live stream that we put on. We had, I think it was like 30, just from YouTube, not even counting everybody's Instagram, just 30 to 40,000 views just in that weekend, let alone what it's doing right now. That's reaching more kids. That's reaching more people. It's helping to grow the sport because there's wind there. Is that bad? Like, come on, tell me it's bad. Like we shouldn't be providing more opportunity to throwers. We shouldn't be providing more opportunity for throwers to make money. We shouldn't be providing more opportunity for kids to see this high level world record live. We should be hiding it behind a paywall on a Diamond League final or a Diamond League competition and hide it so that somebody else can make money, not the throwers and not the kids to see it. I'm starting to rant there a little bit. And I think that, okay, so I actually have written down here 2 days. So if you add up a couple other things, there was over 75,000 people who watched the throws just from our two platforms. And that's not even including everybody's social media platforms. And then finally, the goal is including more people. Okay, to grow the sport, we have to include more people and provide people with more opportunities. That's exactly what Throwstown Ramona does. Does it have wind? Yes. At the end of the day, though, everyone still has to compete at championships. And that's one thing that I remember Vestin talking to me about when we were in Iceland. He's like, we would take Cantor, and Cantor would go throw. I think it was in Sollentuna where he threw his 73. He still had to go win a world title or an Olympic title. But if you put out a big mark early, one, that can sort of screw with your opponents. And two, you can sort of chase that the rest of the year. Okay, I threw, look at Daniel last year. I threw 71 early season, didn't throw great, but then I can come back in dead air and compete in the stadium and throw 71 meters in the stadium. And it's like, you still have to perform in the championship season. If we look at something like a wind-aided meet like Ramona, and we look at it as an opportunity to grow the sport, we look at it as an opportunity to fund more throwers, to get more opportunities, to get more growth from it, then we have more people that can potentially get to the championships or whatever, and they still have to throw far. And I remember, people were complaining about Joe Brown getting called out for throwing 64 or 65. I think
something like that.
Yeah. Oh, guess what? Guess what Joe did? He went to Tucson, and he won the Tucson meet.
And he won, yep. He beat some top dogs there.
Yeah. Okay, so you're going to complain about someone like Dalen. So Dalen got second at USA's and then goes to Pan Am's. But it's like, dude, if we just look at the meet as a growth meet, it's like as a throwing community, if we could recognize there's meets that are meant to grow the sport. There's meet like this to me is like a football game where the score is like 65-40 and it's just like this crazy shootout. I'm thinking about like Brett Favre had a game back in the day where he had like 6 TDs the day after his dad died and like just it was crazy. Like those games grow the sport because they're just fantastic. They're just out of this world. That's what this meet is. Look at it for what it is. It's an opportunity to grow the sport, provide successful financial situations for more throwers. they still have to show up at USAs. They still have to show up at World Championships. They still have to show up at the Olympics or Euros, wherever it is that they're throwing from, and they still have to compete when the lights are on. This is just a chance. And if honestly, if we would use Joe as an example, he's thrown at Ramona quite a bit, and he's been around a lot of big dogs.
Yes.
Like he's thrown with. I don't even think he made it to the final on this day, on the final.
No, he didn't.
But he was around these guys, and that probably set him up to compete better at Tucson.
Yeah.
And it probably set him up so that last year when he went to USAs, he got fourth and made the Pan Am team. So it's like, dude, that's my stance, and I'm sticking to it. Peace.
Peace.